Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 52 of the BoxHard podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm on my own once again this week, and it seems like a bit of a routine now. It's strange. Every single time I get a prediction right, Ayaz doesn't show. I don't know what that's about, but it's now 2-2 on the prediction league. For those that aren't aware of it, it's actually 2-2. I was 2-0 down, and I'm now 2-2 because I picked Linares to beat Crolla, which was a bit hard to do because I'm a huge fan of Crolla, but we'll get down to that in the review part of the show, which we're about to dive into. So we're going to start with a card that took place over in the Dominican Republic. Javier Fortuna, 29-1 with the one draw going into his bout. He picked up a TKO in round 2 over Marlon Cabrera, who had a record of 22-0. He was undefeated. He's now got his first career blemish. So 30th career win there for Javier Fortuna. It's a good win for him. But that's really it for the Dominican Republic. Just the one fight there. Now we're over in the big one, taking place in Manchester Arena, of course, the MEN Arena, the Phones for You Arena, whatever you want to call it. Top of the bill, as I just mentioned a few seconds ago, Anthony Crolla, he put his WBA World Lightweight title on the line against tricky veteran, former world champion, of course, Jorge Linares. It was always going to be a tough ask for Anthony Crolla. I knew that myself. That's why I went with Linares to win the fight last week. But I've got to say, it was a really good fight. It was one of those fights. The whole card wasn't so exciting. I watched the whole bill, but I've got to be honest, some of the fights were a bit boring. And then when it comes to the main event was really good. It was certainly one that it was just exciting beforehand. It's brilliant. The atmosphere looked really good. And when the fight was on, when it was during the fight, you couldn't really blink. It was one of those fights. Crolla, I got to give him some serious credit. Every single fight he's in at the moment, he's really, they seem to be such great fights. It's just come out of nowhere. He's raised his game so much. He's been absolutely fantastic for British boxing, a great ambassador for the sport in the last couple of years. And I've got to say, he went in there, he put it all on the line, and he didn't start fantastically. I think Jorge Linares was establishing, his skill set pretty much from the get-go. I think during some of the middle rounds, Crolla done really well. Even though I say Linares was establishing his skill set, he wasn't necessarily winning the rounds big. You could really kind of give him either way for the first 4 or 5 rounds, I thought. I think that probably Crolla got most of them being the home fighter, but in that 7th round, I think it was the 7th or the 8th round, when Crolla really hurt Linares, it looked like the stoppage was inevitable. It really did look like it was going to come within really a few seconds. But then next thing you know, he just turned it round like a switch, and Linares actually managed to hurt Crolla, and it really looked like Crolla was going to get stopped, and then he kind of got saved by the bell. And I think that was a tremendous round, and that was the turning point, because Crolla was probably going to be cruising to some sort of decision. I know that Paulie Malignaggi, I've got to add in there, he was very he seemed to sort of be attacking the officiating. I've got to say so. I know that he was giving his honest opinion, and I give him credit for actually not really caring and not kind of following the rules and actually saying, no, this is wrong. And he stood up for Linares, and I appreciate that. I think he might have been a little bit too strong, but Paulie, he doesn't give a damn. He says it how it is, and I really respect that, the way he is for being like that. But it will be interesting how many fights they pull him over here for, because I don't think some of the top guys would have appreciated that. Some of the top guys at Sky would have appreciated that. So maybe he'll only be here for some of the big ones, the Brook Golovkins and the Joshua fights and stuff like that. I mean, Paulie really does know boxing, but how much does he really know about some of these undercard fighters, I mean, how much can he really know about, people like John Ryder, Callum Johnson, Jose Burton, people like that? I'm not I'm not knocking any of them. I'm just saying, he's from a completely different part of the world. And how much does he really know about these guys? I don't know. But he made some great points. He did. But I just think, was there any need for him to really come over when it was really one big fight on the whole card? But as I say, Crawler done really well. I'm really, impressed by him again. I think he was really good. And he was kind of, he showed he's a tough guy, Crawler. He took a lot of big shots. He stood up to it. His defense was great, actually. His defense was really, really great. But Linares, when it looked like he was about to get stopped or something like that, he just found his second wind. And that is just proof of how great the guy is. He really is a future Hall of Famer, simple as that. He's been fantastic for the sport. It was his 41st career win ultimately, and as I say, when real good fighters can find their second wind, they can. It's experience at world level. That's what it is, and he showed that, Linares. And I don't really want to be too critical of Crawler, but he outclassed him. And it hurts me to say that, it really does. But I'm sure Crawler will be back again. Hopefully now he's in a bit of a lower position than Terry Flanagan. Hopefully egos can be put aside here. I don't think it's so much from the fighters, but the promoters. Terry Flanagan, he's still a world champion. Crawler's not. So maybe that fight can get made, and hopefully we see Crawler in another big fight. But again, I don't know what's happening. I think there may have been a rematch clause, so we may see that fight happen again, and it's going to be interesting. We'll see what the future holds. But Crawler definitely not finished at all. His record: 31 wins, 5 losses, and 3 draws. And as I said, Jorge Linares, 41 wins and the 3 losses. On the undercard, John Ryder was actually upset against Jack Armfield. This was a fight I really thought John Ryder would have in the bag, to be honest. It was for the WBA international middleweight title, which was John Ryder's title, and he lost it to Jack Armfield. So a bit disappointing there. John Ryder's been on the show before. I really thought he was going to do this pretty easy, and I've got to be completely honest though, I think he won the fight. It was a very strange card that was read out. It was a few strange cards. The judges, it was kind of weird. It was like you either had it big for John Ryder or you had it big for Jack Armfield, and I think 1 or 2 of the judges' scorecards had it quite big for Jack Armfield. I couldn't believe that, to be honest. But John Ryder, he's really kind of showed that British level is kind of as far as he can go at this stage, which I think, he put in a great performance back when he fought Billy Joe Saunders. He matched him, it was a close fight in my opinion, and he kind of hasn't really been able to perform like that since that loss. So I don't know if he can regroup, but I really hope he can, because he's a top guy. He really, really is. Also on that card, Callum Johnson moved to 16-0, and he picked up the vacant Commonwealth light heavyweight title. While doing so, his opponent was actually given a count in the 7th round, and he also actually had points deducted in the 5th and 7th round for holding his opponent Wilberforce Shishepo, and that was a 9th round KO there in favour of Callum Johnson. Also on the bill, Hosea Burton. I'm a big fan of his. He cruised to 18-0 with a TKO in round 3 over Fernando Castaneda. Castaneda was down twice in the 3rd round. Of course, he was supposed to fight Frank Buglioni, Hosea Burton, but Frank Buglioni pulled out with a cut, and Castaneda stepped in, and Frank Buglioni stopped Castaneda in 5 rounds, but Hosea Burton's done it in 3. So an impressive win there for Hosea Burton, and hopefully we see the Buglioni fight rescheduled, because it's made it even more juicier. Also on the bill, Marcus Morrison moved to 13-0 with a KO in the 1st round, a body shot followed by a right hook. Great combination. Real smart stuff there from Marcus Morrison. Also on the bill, Isaac Lowe. His fight wasn't televised, but he moved to 13-0. Of course, he's got that 1 draw with a points win over 6 rounds against Elvis Guillen. And finally, Conor Benn cruised to 5-0 on this bill. I say cruised, it wasn't really an easy fight. He fought a guy called Ross Jameson, who had 1 win and 1 loss. Conor Benn, of course, the 4 wins going into the bout. But Ross Jameson, no one knew nothing about him. He came in there and he came to fight. Some parts of the fight he was mainly boxing off the back foot, but he was landing good shots on Conor Benn. And I tell you what, although Conor Benn got the job done and he was a lot stronger, a lot more powerful, a lot more fitter, more athletic, it was the first 6 rounder that Conor Benn's actually has actually been. I don't think he looked too great stamina-wise in the 5th and 6th round. He did look very tired, but that's just the way he fights. He's a bit reckless at times, Conor Benn, and I hope that that's something that he can, improve on as he progresses, because his opponent, he really came and gave it some, and I think that he could have even nicked one or two of the rounds, to be honest, if he had a little bit more power, a little bit more snap in his punches. He just didn't have it, but he marked up Conor Benn pretty well. He really did. If you see after the fight, Conor Benn really looked like he was in a big fight, and you got to be honest, this guy's only had one win and one loss, so I hope he does pick up his game, Conor Benn, but I'm sure he will. He's certainly got the right people around him to do so. But that's really it for the review part of this week's show. There wasn't too many fights last week. All those fights that I've just mentioned there, of course, all took place last week. There wasn't too much to talk about. And to be honest, this week, there's not too much to talk about either. There's a few cards that I will mention in the preview part of the show coming up in part 2, of course. But there is not too much. So it's not going to be too much of me rambling on, which is always probably a good thing. But I'm going to start just before we bring on the first guest of this week's show. I just want to go to that funny part of the show, the funny name segment that we bring in, every now and then. And because Ayaz is not here with the news this week, I thought that we could bring it in. And I tell you what, there is some absolutely brilliant names. You're going to love it. I'm telling you, you really, really are going to love it. Now, the first name that I found on BoxRec that's fighting this week is a guy. I'm going to mention his opponent. His opponent's name is Juki Tatsuyossi. Now, Tatsuyossi has a record of 5-0. He's in there against a man with a record of 5 wins, 8 losses, and 1 draw. This man is in there to lose, and his name is Monkey Shuhai. Okay, so that was a contender this week for the funniest name. I like that one, Monkey Shuhai. And also another one which I found, it was pretty strange. It's a card happening over in the Philippines. There's a guy in one corner called Carl James Martin who has a record of 2-0, and he's taking on a guy with a record of 1 win, 8 losses, and 1 draw. Remember, this is in the Philippines, and his name, I'm not kidding you, is Manny Mamakiao, and that is M-A-M-A, like mama, C-Q-U-I-A-O. So it's spelled exactly the same. It's Manny Mamakiao. So that one was quite bizarre. And finally, the winner, the absolute hands-down winner, also fighting in Philippines, this one in Manila. He's taken on a man called Roldan Aldea, who has a record of 9 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. It's a 10-rounder at super featherweight. This guy has won it hands down. In the other corner, with a record of 10 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw. It's always good to see a funny name fighter with a winning record. And his name is, wait for it, Benji Sugarknob. I am not kidding. I'm absolutely not kidding. Whack his name into BoxRec if you don't believe me, and you will see that I'm talking the absolute truth. What a name. So Benji Sugarknob wins this week's funny name fighter, hands down. No one has come close to that. I think that's probably the best name we've ever done on this segment of the show, the funny name fighter. Now, as I said, there's no news on this week's show because Ayaz is absent once again. So before we end part 1, there's one last thing to do, which is, of course, to welcome our first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a man that hasn't even lost a round in his career so far. It's, of course, bright prospect Craig Spider Richards. Craig, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you.
Now, Craig, 16 months ago to this day, you turned pro. Okay, so 16 months today, you've been a pro. So far, you've had 5 fights in that time. My first question is, are you happy with the progress that you've made thus far in the pro ranks?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the progress I've made. Obviously, early in my first year, coming up to my first year, I weren't active as much as I probably would have liked to have been, but I was really busy of our stable and everything at the time. But things have changed since then, so I'm very happy with what's happened, the progress and what I'm working towards, and got a great team, great promoter, so yeah, I couldn't be any happier really.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I want to go back to your last fight, okay? I want to go back to your last fight. I didn't get to see it, but I know that you won every round. You won on points. Could you walk us through that fight? And also, I just want to get your take on how did it feel to box on the Brook Golovkin undercard in such a huge arena, Craig?
Yeah, it was good. Well, going through the fight, I feel like I knew that I had a very, very tough fighter who's, in his eyes, feels like he's a good prospect still, and he feels like he's been managed wrong. And I knew he's sparred some great people leading up to the camp for our fight, and he was in tremendous shape. So I knew we was going to have a fight on our hands. So, leading up to the fight, I heard that he was going to stick it on me, stay on my chest, etc. So I kind of knew what the game plan was going to be. So I just had to work him out of his own game plan and make him uncomfortable. So I just let him come on a little bit until I started hitting him with flush shots to take him out of his rhythm once he felt my power. And then, it was just kind of like from there, just doing what I needed to do, just counteract everything he wanted to do. I felt like at times I could have performed better at times. Like when I had him on the ropes and the ref kept looking in, I could have just stepped back and took him out. But I think I was just more on for an accumulation of punches, what I don't usually do. So it was a clean win, but I learned a lot from it.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing at the end of the day. Craig, what did you make of the main event? You know, what did you make of Kell Brook's valiant effort?
I thought he put up a tremendous effort, and I think he definitely collected a lot more fans because he boxed very, very well. If his eye socket, I think he was even up on the scorecard. So if his eye socket never got broken, I believe that he could have possibly gone on to nip it on point, but we never know because a broken eye socket is 7 rounds left with a tremendous puncher like Golovkin. Ain't like you're going to really risk that. That could be the last fight of your career if you're going to go 7 more rounds with him with a broken eye socket. So I think Kel made a very good account of himself, and yeah, he was a class fighter that night. Just obviously Golovkin is a bit of a beast. It's hard to beat the man.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you're back fighting in a place you know best tomorrow night. You're back out at York Hall. How are you feeling ahead of tomorrow night, Craig?
Yeah, I feel good. It's good. It was a short camp. It'll be a new experience, being out back to back quite quickly. So, yeah, I feel confident. I believe in my skills and ability. So I feel confident and go out there and do what I need to do and think back to all the things from my previous fight, which I thought I could have done better, and put the piece of the puzzle together and go out and try and perform it tomorrow night.
And what is the plan for you at the moment, career-wise, Craig? Will you be pushed into some sort of area title bout or perhaps onto something bigger for your first piece of silverware? And do you know when that's likely to be at this stage at all?
Well, we are looking towards picking up a title, possibly maybe by the end of this year. So just got to sit down, just listen to the team, see what they draft up, and see what titles I can go for and collect my first piece of silverware, really. See what we can get our hands on.
Because I was going to ask you, providing all goes to plan tomorrow night, will you have another fight before the end of the calendar year? But it seems like you're confident that you will.
Yeah, I think I definitely will. Definitely be out by the end of the year. Definitely at least have one more fight by the end of the year.
Okay, great stuff. Now, I just wanted to touch on, for those that don't know, Craig, for those that are unfamiliar with yourself, what are some of the guys that you sparred with? I know that me and you had this conversation when we sat down together just at that press conference for Golovkin Brook. But for those that don't know, which guys have you sparred with? Which guys do you spar with regularly?
Well, I sparred with like maybe John Ryder, Anthony Ogogo, for loads of like couple cruiserweights, like heavyweights. I sparred in the past, as I said before, Gabriel Rosado. I sparred a lot of great fighters, really. I have good preparation when it comes to sparring. We definitely don't get short on great sparring.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, go on. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go on.
Yeah, no, it's just always good names, big names, experienced fighters and strong fighters. We always like to spar the best to get us in best preparation for our fights.
Yeah, of course. And how did that spar come around with Gabriel Rosado? It's crazy. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, it just started off with a conversation, really. It just kind of escalated. Someone talking to me, someone who knew me talking about me to someone who knew him, and they just kind of like ended up just arranging the spar to make me and him arrange to meet up and then sparred, and then that was it, really. Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
And
straightforward.
And for the main event tomorrow night, well, I say it's the main event. I think it's actually like kind of chief support or whatever. Isaac Chamberlain takes on Wadi Camacho. It's a bit of an interesting one. There's a bit of needle between them both. How do you see that fight playing out? Because I know that Wadi's been at a higher level. He's the more experienced man. But Chamberlain, of course, undefeated, fresh, very confident. How do you see that one going, Craig?
Well, exactly what you said. Wadi Camacho is the experienced man in there. But it's a question, have you seen better days? We don't know. Isaac Chamberlain's the young, fresh prospect with skills, hands, feet. He's a fresher man. It's like, but can he deal with the experience of Wadi Camacho? Is Wadi Camacho's experience going to kick in, or is it the young, fresh prospects who's fresh with skills who's going to come on top? So it's just really a question of who really steps up to the table. And it's going to be interesting. I could probably see Isaac Chamberlain maybe nipping it. Yeah, I can't really call it, but I would say, if anything, maybe Chamberlain might. Yeah, the fresher man might do it.
Yeah,
It depends on what he turns up, really, and what Chamberlain turns up. Because everyone can look great in the gym and have better nights. Sometimes people will have off nights. We never know. And that's the interesting thing about boxing. You can't really call it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that down to a T. And if for some crazy reason, Craig, if for some crazy reason you were like a boxing promoter god, right? You could make any fight in world boxing. It's a bit of a fun question, right? If you owned every fight, you own Canelo, you own Mayweather. In fact, not Mayweather because he's just retired, but any current fighter, which fight would you make in world boxing if you could make any fight happen?
Right now, I'd love to see Canelo Golovkin.
Oh, Jesus, I love that one.
Golovkin, because I think Canelo's one of the best fighters on this planet, skill-wise, period. And we all know that Golovkin's a tremendous puncher, and he's a lot cleverer than he looks from tracking you down, getting you tired. But I just can't see anyone being able to beat Canelo working on the inside.
Yeah. It's an intriguing one. It really is, because, you know, Canelo's solid.
Unless you can run away from him for 12 rounds, which a lot of people can't, you're not going to sit on the inside and trade with him and beat him. I can't see Golovkin hitting him and making him fall apart.
No, I can't see it, but both men don't know how to fight on the back foot. They're both come forward fighters, aren't they? We've never seen them take a step back, either of them, in their whole career, you know?
You say that, but Canelo can, as we saw against even like Liam Smith, he let him come forward and sat on the ropes at times and counterpunch him. Even when he dropped him with a body shot, he was on the ropes with his back against the ropes. He countered off of the left foot and whipped it up to his solar plate.
Oh, it's a juicy one, that one, though, isn't it, Craig?
You know, that was a tremendous shot. And that wasn't an accident. He was watching, looking for the gaps, saw the gap, wham, hit him. He's so clever. People underestimate how clever Canelo is. I can't see anyone trading with Canelo and beating him on the inside work. He's too clever.
Yeah, he's got an underestimated boxing brain for sure. He really has. Even the finishing punch, as you say, in the Liam Smith fight, the way he just touched him upstairs, made his hands come up. Oh, it was horrible, wasn't it? You know,
Canelo is one of the best fighters on the planet, and I think I would love to see that fight, and another fight I would have loved Golovkin to go and fight Andre Ward.
Oh, Craig, man, if you was a promoter, man, you'd be the best promoter in the world.
But I believe that Andre Ward would beat Golovkin, and Golovkin knows that as well.
Well, he's 2 weight divisions up now, so I don't think that fight will ever happen. But it would have been good if they've both come to some sort of agreement when Ward was at super middle, of course. But I don't see it happening now, to be honest. But you enjoyed that last question there, didn't you?
Yeah, I did enjoy that. So there's always fights in your head that you just want to see. Like, if I want to see Khan, Brook, we want to see that fight happen. Khan can't run away from that fight forever. We need to see that fight. There's endless fights we'd love to see.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. Now, Craig, just before I let you go, I want to give you an opportunity to thank anyone or give a message to anyone who may be listening at all. Now's the time to do so.
First and foremost, I'd obviously love to thank my supporters who come out every time and support me. Of course, big thanks to Peter Sims, obviously for everything he's done for me, for my career. He's made it all happen. And Eddie Hearn, of course, massive thanks to him and the whole Matchroom team, really. He looked after me, and all my sponsors as well. And everyone who gives me time and I speak to in interviews and everything, I'd like to thank you as well. So there's a few of you I'd like to thank, and you stayed apart, and I just really appreciate it, really.
Absolutely, man. Nice words. Okay, listen, Craig, it's been great speaking with you, my friend. I appreciate you coming on. Good luck for tomorrow. I'll be ringside cheering you on.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part is the preview part where we preview the fights coming up this week. As I said in part 1, there's not too much to preview. We're going to start with a card taking place over in York Hall, Bethnal Green, London, of course, the mecca of British boxing. Everyone has just about fought there, to be honest. Every good champion that we've had from the past is a absolutely tremendous boxing place for some of the fighters coming through, and the prospects and all the rest of it. Now, it's a bit of it's a matchroom show, so it's got a lot of their prospects on the bill, a lot of their undefeated prospects and what have you. So top of the bill is Reece Bellotti, 6-0. He takes on Ian Bailey. That should be a good fight. Wadi Camacho against Isaac Chamberlain. Wadi Camacho, 16 wins and 5 losses. Of course, he's mixed it at a higher level than Isaac Chamberlain in terms of pro ranks. Isaac Chamberlain, 5-0. Of course, he's the challenger of Wadi Camacho's Southern Area Cruiserweight title. I know that there's a bit of a grudge match here. It's a bit of a grudge match. There's a bit of needle. I'm not sure who started it all. I think that Isaac Chamberlain's kind of like, come on, I'm ready for you. And I think Wadi Camacho is kind of like, listen, you're a kid, you know, you can't, you're too young, you're a little kid compared to me. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. It's a 10-rounder, that one. Also on the bill, Jake Ball, 6-0. His opponent yet to be announced, but it's good to see him out again. A real classy fighter, Jake Ball. That's in the light heavyweight division, of course. Craig Spider Richards is also on the bill. He looks to pick up his 6th career win. He hasn't even lost a round yet in his pro career. Really exciting fighter. Felix Cash is also on the bill. He looks to move to 3-0. His opponent yet to be announced. And also, finally, Ted Cheeseman, 5-0 going into this bout. His opponent yet to be announced, and he looks to pick up his 6th career win. So all the best to all the boys on that bill. But that's really it for York Hall. By the way, that card is set to take place on Thursday night. It will not be televised. So I think there may be tickets on the door. I'm not too sure, but you should really try and get down to that. I think ringside tickets are £100. I think other tickets, you know, anywhere else are £40. So it's a good price to see some of, you know, tomorrow's good fighters really from the UK. It's always good to get out and show the prospects a bit of love, which I'll be doing. But that's really it for York Hall. As I said, we're now going to move over to Germany. Nathan Cleverly, our very own Nathan Cleverly from Wales, of course. He takes on the champion Jürgen Bremer. This one's for Jürgen Bremer's WBA World Light Heavyweight title. Jürgen Bremer, 48 wins and 2 losses. What a record in his 50-fight career. Nathan Cleverly, 29 wins and 3 losses. This one should be a good fight. This is a fight that Nathan Cleverly's wanted for ages. I remember back when he was with Frank Warren, this fight was supposed to happen, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen. And now, finally, the fight has been made, and it's on, and it's happening. I tell you what, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be on Sky Sports on Saturday night. It's a Sauerland show, but it's got O'Hara Davies on the bill, for example, and it's got a couple of the other Brits that the Sauerlands promote, of course. So Jürgen Bremer Cleverly will be a real good fight. I think that Jürgen Bremer, I don't really want to pick him to win. I think it's going to be a close fight. It's too hard to pick almost. It depends what Nathan Cleverly shows up, because if it's the Nathan Cleverly that showed up against Tony Bellew, then he's definitely going to lose. But this is Nathan Cleverly back at light heavyweight, remember, a weight that he's naturally better at. So it'll be interesting to see what unfolds. I really hope that Cleverly can get the job done. And as I said, O'Hara Davies is also on the bill. He looks to move to 13-0. He has a perfect record of 12-0 at the moment. This is an 8-rounder at super lightweight, also known as 140. As I said, his opponent is yet to be announced. Other names that are on this bill that the listeners would have heard of are a few other guys that are promoted by the Sauerlands. As I said, some other Brits that they work with, which includes the likes of George Grove, so and so. But on this particular bill, David Price, which I haven't heard nothing about, and I was a bit reluctant to believe it was actually happening. David Price, I know he's supposed to be lined up with a fight happening with Dave Allen and somewhat, which will be happening in October sometime. So I'm surprised to see him on the bill here, but it is listed, so maybe it is happening. His opponent's yet to be announced. It's only just going to be a keep busy fight pretty much, but his record, 20 wins and 3 losses. Those 3 losses all to drug cheats, I may add. And David Price, also teamed up now with Dave Caldwell, a tremendous trainer. So I really hope that, they can whip him into some sort of monster that we all thought he was at one point. And as I said, he's only lost to drug cheat. So, he's got a great punch, real hard punch. And I'd love to see him do big things because I really do like David Price. Absolutely lovely guy. And I wish him all the best for Saturday night. And also on the bill, another Brit promoted by the Sauerlands, Anthony Ogogo. He looks to move to 12-0. His record at the moment is 11-0. His opponent yet to be announced. So it's got a bit of Brit interest, which is fantastic, especially as it's going to be broadcasted on Sky Sports. So 3 or 4 fights there with Brits involved. I'm not sure which ones will be shown on the telecast, but I'm hoping we can get all of them. Also on that bill, I should mention Vincent Feigenbutz, 23-2. He takes on Guillermo Ruben Andino, 10-1. So good card that. I'm looking forward to that one on Saturday night. But that's really it for Germany. We're now going to fly out to New Zealand. The way we move from continent to continent is pretty remarkable. Top of the bill over here, Joseph Parker, a man that's been on our show before and a man that is mandatory for Anthony Joshua's title. Again, apparently he's the front runner to get the fight with Anthony Joshua that was supposed to get announced this week, but it hasn't been announced before the show's gone out. So I can't tell you the details of that, but I'm sure I would have if I knew them. So Joseph Parker, 20-0, he takes on Alexander Dimitrenko, who has a record of 38 wins and 2 losses. Now, this should be a good fight, but I do want to remind people that Dimitrenko, he lost years and years ago to Eddie Chambers. And I mean, he hasn't really done much since then, to be completely honest. He hasn't really looked great. I mean, he's got a bit of a padded record when you think about it. He's got 40 fights under his belt, which is double the amount that Joseph Parker has. Joseph Parker being the younger, fresher of the guys, and it is for his WBO Oriental heavyweight title. He puts that on the line. So Dimitrenko, I'm sure he's going to turn up. And really, if he can, this is like his world title shot kind of thing. If he can beat Joseph Parker, suddenly he jumps up into title contention and he could end up nicking a world title fight, so he'll really be giving it his all. And Joseph Parker really better not underestimate him here, because this could really, this is a potential banana skin, and it is actually a tough opponent when you've got the Joshua fight in the future, in the very, very near future, from what Eddie Hearn's been saying. So all the best to Joseph Parker. Again, a real nice guy, It was a pleasure having him on the show when he did come on, and we'll look to try and get him on again soon. So all the best to Joseph Parker on Saturday night. But that's it for New Zealand. Now, there's one last fight that I want to mention, which unfortunately I didn't mention in the review part of the show. Just one fight that I missed out, but that's it for the previewing. So the one fight is, last week I actually said it was a strange one happening over in Poland, where a man who was 6-0 called Adam Bałski was taking on Valery Brudov, former opponent of Tony Bellew, and he was 6-0 and he was taking on Valery Brudov, who had 52 fights under his belt. And I tell you what, Adam Bałski knocked Valery Brudov out in round 5. So as I said, I didn't know too much about Adam Bałski, but I do now. He must be a real good fighter to get the job done that easy after just 6 pro fights. So amazing stuff, and we better keep our eyes open for him. But that's really it for part 2. That's it for the previewing. That's it for that last little review bit there, which I missed out in part 1. So the last thing to do, of course, is to thank everybody for giving this show another listen once again. I've got to say so. I've been so happy with the views that we've had lately. It's been tremendous. It really has. I really appreciate all the support. Remember, you can get involved in the conversation on Twitter at BoxHard Podcast. I'd like to thank our one guest that took part in this week's show, Craig Spider Richards. I wish him all the best of luck for tomorrow night. As I said before, that will be Thursday night. Once again, thank you very much for giving this week's show a listen, and we'll be back next week with another big show. As always, until then, my friends, take care.